This is Matt for Into Boxing. Delighted to be joined by IBF World Champion Josh Warrington. Josh, first of all, how's things?
I'll just say he fucking loves a kiddie. That's all he wants to do is go for a kiddie.
He'll do for me, you know. I came in today and he's like, Matt, what are you doing Friday? You've been in twice this week. Do you want to come for a curry? I was like, fucking two, right?
He goes to one of his favourites was Jenner's in Leeds. Little plug there. But it's only a little curry house, but I'll go in and take over it. Got 40 lads and just have the chefs working. But yeah, do good food to be fair. But yeah, he loves his curries. But yeah, I'm answer to your question. I'm good. Just getting myself nightmare. Just getting back into full training. Obviously, taken a while. Jaw, and also I damaged my hand. I torn ligaments in 3 places in my left hand. So anything apart from running was suspended.
Yeah.
So punching, S&C, obviously sparring. Couldn't do anything like that. I mean, I could do work on my footwork and bits of shadowing, but in the early stages, nothing too strange St. George. I could just run. And, there's only so much running you can do because I'm a boxer and I'm not a fucking marathon runner.
Yeah. How frustrating has that been for you, sort of having shackles on? Because ultimately it was a fantastic night where you managed to get your world title back, but because of what's happened, because of the jaw, because of the hand, it does put a bit of a delay on things for you.
Of course it does, mate. And in a way, I feel like it's coming freeze. I've had the pandemic stop my momentum back in 2019 after going on a pretty impressive running for mind saying so myself.
Yeah, not bad.
Selby, Frampton, Keith Gallard as my fucking monetary, and then still friends coach knock out into rounds. I'm looking to go on to bigger things. I've re-signed one matchroom and looking at big fights there, unification fights, a ring, magazine belt. That gets delayed with the pandemic. A lot of people get affected. But then I had the fight with Lara. Fucking obviously had a bit of a beating there, and I had to have a bit of time out with that. Injuries I sustained from that one, and then obviously we go through the rematch. Don't fight again until that September. Don't fight again until March. There's a bit of a gap there.
Yeah.
And then get back, regain the world title, and fucking hell, I'm out again. But, which is annoying, and the frustrating thing is, back end of last camp, we were hitting some fucking serious numbers. My sparring were fantastic every session. Normally I have a fair few blips in my sparring, but sparring were fucking fantastic, especially towards back end. My S&C, I was smashing records every session. I'm going and breaking a new record. Fitness were through the roof. Technique were on point. Timing was fantastic. I mean, just seeing a bit today on pads, time were a little bit off. Timing were on point. Reactions were brilliant, and thought after the fight, I was confident beating Kiko, get the fight done, have a week or two off, just recharge, come back in and build on that, and it's kind of fucking been stamped on, but keep on going. On going. It keeps on testing us, doesn't it? It keeps on testing us.
I'm going to say it's thrown you a few curveballs since you had the IBF the first time round, where you didn't lose it in the ring, but you chose to give it up so you could pursue other things. Yeah. And then obviously you had your loss, but it's come back round for you and you've managed to get the belt back. Have you looked back on that night and sort of relive the moment a little bit? Because it was an epic fight, and like I said, he did some damage to you, Jordan. You still fought through it and managed to eventually stop him. Yeah. Have you looked back on that now and sort of took it all in?
Yeah, you do. You look back at it in different stages. You look at it immediately, then you look at a week after, 2 weeks after, 3 weeks, 6 weeks after, and you sometimes you can make your head a mess. Like thinking, maybe if you'd have stopped him in round 5, then it might not have broken your jaw. But I need to accept that it just is. Yeah. It was.
Nature of the beast,
exactly,
isn't it?
That's what happened, and that's what was written there. Your jaw broken, but you still win the fight, and. There were times when I thought I could have pressed, but Kiko is dangerous, as obviously, that punch there with the punch that he knocks Barry out with, he's always dangerous, so I didn't want to get too carried away, and obviously when I knew there was something wrong with my jaw, then I had to put the foot on the gas.
Yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? He's got that sort of equaliser, especially with what he did with Barry, but in an ideal world then, you would have been looking now at unifications, big fights. Obviously, Leigh Wood had that fight with Michael Conlon. There's so many different avenues you can go down. I know you're still keen on the US trip. I think we've sort of done that to death now. We all know you want to fight in the US at some point. But it's just a case of what is going to be next. Leigh Wood, sort of, I think he's sort of working out his next move because he's got this Santa Cruz issue at the minute. And I think if we're all honest, Santa Cruz hasn't fought for about 3 years. Nobody begrudge Leigh getting elevated, but he seems to want a big fight. He could do that fight in Nottingham, in Leeds. He's mentioned on a cold night, or a cold, wet and windy night in Stoke even. I mean, I'm not quite sure it'd do well in Stoke, but I get the reference. What do you make of Leigh? Get a bit vocal, but I think he wants his big fights.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it's funny how this sport works. I mean, fucking hell, Leigh Wood was nowhere near my radar back in 2019. You know, top of the world. He was struggling with fights for Jazza Dickens, wasn't he? And, you know, his career were more or less fucking done. You know, then he boxed on me undercard in London. Got result against my gym mate in Reece Mould. He, in that way, that night, he kind of earned my fight because I was meant to walk out the ring and announce there and then that I'm fighting Kanju.
Yeah.
And he managed to get the chance, so... No, really, should be thanking me for that opportunity. Maybe thanking Mauricio Lara, I don't know. But listen, I'd be well up in that fight. A little bit of me thinks that if my jaw would have been alright, that some offer may have come to go down to Nottingham and fighting down there. Yeah. And I'd have been well open to it. Because I've done Ellen Road, I've done Headingley, I've done Leeds Arena 11 times. Yeah. If he wants to be the star man of his city, let him have his moment, but we just go over and take it over.
Is that another sort of tick box thing where you can say you've had the home adulation you just mentioned, but to go into an opponent's backyard and knowing that although you'll bring a lot of fans, that in a way, is that like a motivating factor that you could have upset a lot of his fans in front of, you know, and him in front of a bigger audience? That lines them feeling that all your opponents have when they come and fight you. Yeah. Is that what you want a bit of that?
Yeah, most definitely. Listen, a lot of people don't realise that in early stages of my career, you know, before it really took off, I boxed away from home. I won the English title away from home. I boxed in a venue called The Venue in Dudley, but against someone from Dudley. You know, I think there were 1,500 people in the room, and like 80 of them had come and supported me. And we were well outnumbered, and it were vicious, and it were a hostile atmosphere in that little compact venue, but we did the business there. Did the business went about over to Hull and boxed Samir Menemni in his backyard, you know, in front of his fans and supporters. But like you are right, they always travel with me. You know, we look over in Manchester when I boxed Carl. Carl's very well supported, but I still took some big numbers. So I think we'd be very well supported down in Nottingham, but the pressure would be on him, and it'd be interesting to see how he copes with it because he's never done it. He's never been in that scenario.
Obviously, he had that impressive win against Michael Conlon where he had to show a lot of heart. I mean, that fight looked done when he got knocked down, but you know he figured it out in the end and he got the victory. So hats off to him for that. But if you fight Leigh Wood, a fully fit Josh Warrington, obviously no issues, straight into camp. What happens? Because you've come back now. You tried to avenge the defeat to Lara. Yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But you started the fight well. Yeah. You've now got your world title back. Yeah. You're on your run of form now yourself. Yeah. What happens if you fight Leigh Wood?
I'll be confident that I'd close the show within 12. Very much so. You know, he's a big hitter, and I know he can box as well. He's had that bit of switch hitting in the past, but I know that he likes a fight, and you know, if that happens, if that'd be the case, it'd be over even quicker. Yeah. But I'd be very confident of stopping it within 12.
Talk to me about this American dream. And have you spoke to Eddie about a plan to get you to America? How do we do it? What's the route that we have to go down to get you in America? Is it Navarrete? What's the plan? How do we get Josh Warrington either in Vegas, in New York, even in wherever? How do we get you there so you can have that moment?
It's just that's been the annoyance of waiting of when we can just get back. I think when they're trying to organise fights 6 months in advance, it don't really happen unless it's a big rivalry or a big, you know, blockbuster fight, or a big rematch that needs to happen. It don't really, you know, happen until around 4 months beforehand. So, you know, I've only just been given the green light to get to regional and full training, so it'd be, I think, a few weeks before we start talking about negotiating and where we're going to go and who's going to be available, because some fighters don't want to wait 6 months, don't want to wait 7 months to get matched up to a fight. They want to be keeping busy, keeping active, keeping the momentum going. So it's going to be see who's available at the back end of the year, probably October, November time, maybe December before I return, and if we get to maybe mid-August, maybe September, and see what could potentially be made, then we'll start going from there. But I think it would be better as well if restrictions eased up as well in the States. Obviously, I'm not fucking saying that. I'm not a politician or Josh Warrington saying he should change fucking America's rules. Ain't gonna do fuck all. But it would be nice, because I know there'd be a lot of supporters and followers of mine who maybe haven't had the vaccination and don't plan on getting it, and they want to go over to the States to support us. So we won't lose a percentage of people who don't want to go or can't go because they can't get into the country because they haven't had the vaccine, So
I still think with the amount of support you've got, there'd be quite a heavy amount that are vaccinated. I'd probably get it off the back of knowing you were fighting, to be honest, knowing what your lot are like. So is it going to be, though, is it going to weigh heavy on your mind if you don't get this American thing? Because you've sort of done everything. When you look at the chapters of your career, you've not had easy fights coming up. You get Lee Selby for the world title fight, which people wrote you off beforehand. You win that. You then get Carl Frampton. Your middle of your career, you have this defeat, but you bounce back with the world title. So this last chapter, if you don't get this American fight, is it going to be a big sort of thing in the back of your mind?
Yeah, I think it would be. It would annoy me. I think I believe that all the team of Matchroom want it to happen as well. I'd speak to all the. The Matchroom just doesn't involve like Eddie. There's a lot of other people who are attached to him, and they're all excited for it. All my supporters are excited for it. I think a lot of the boxing world are excited for it. I've been speaking about it for so long. I mean, it's been since 2018 when I beat Lee Selby, and then obviously I wanted to fight Carl. I got offered to fight Carl. I took the Carl fight. Then I had to do my manager, and that's it now. I've done everything over here. I've beat all the main men. Now the big fights are over there, and at the time it was Santa Cruz, Gary Russell, Oscar Valdez, and then Shakur Stevenson, who took his belt, and it's been something I've been wanting to do for years. I mean, the amount of times that people pass me and we're off to Vegas, or we're going to America, I'm getting passports out, and it's like, I just want to give, for those who've been following me, I've been talking about it and I've been asked by many different media outlets about, is it going to happen? And I even think Eddie really wants to make it happen. It's just a case of when and who.
Yeah, and I know we've gone over it a few times, and we've normally just talked about it in terms of an opponent. So I want to get it from the point of view of whoever it is. Would it be a missing? But I think you've got a lot of boxing left in you. Touch wood, and we'll see what happens with that. Just got a couple more for you, because I'm conscious that I've kept you after you've stayed and done extra circuits. Right, so I need to get your opinion. Anthony Joshua, when you lost, I think reached out to you, if I remember rightly. He's coming up. He's got a huge rematch. Just added to his team with Robert Garcia. Very, very good coach, trainer. What do you think of this rematch? Can he change his fortunes in this fight, and how do you see it going?
Yeah, most definitely. It's boxing. He's got the power as well. He's a big guy, and he's got a lot of size on Usyk. I think that boxing, Usyk has to just go out the window. He's not going to box someone who is so good at his craft. He has to rough him off. He has to make it a fight. He has to use his advantages, which is size and that fucking big right hand. It looked like he were a bit cautious of throwing it last time. He couldn't get it underway. But is that because he was out of range? Because he couldn't get the distance right? For me, he has to take it to Usyk. He has to smother him. He has to clinch him. He has to fucking wear him down, tie him up, get them body shots in. Usyk had said that the body shots were wearing him down. So just make it a dogfight. And, I think the closer he is in range, the more chance he has of getting that big right hand off. And, we've seen how devastating it is. And he knows how to finish people. He's a big puncher. You can't argue with the facts of that. And if he can get that off, then I think he's got a very good chance of hurting him.
One more in terms of a fight prediction. I don't know if it's been announced because I've been in here for the last few hours, but strong rumours are, and we've been seeing it all week, Conor Benn, Chris Eubank, potentially a catchweight, 155, 156. So I've seen online. Don't know if it's confirmed. if that fight happens at that weight, what happens? I mean, it's almost like they're going to build it as obviously Benn, Eubank 3, and all this. But it is a part of history, and it'll be interesting. What do you make of that? It's going to be a good build-up, but the fight itself, what do you think?
Interesting, very interesting. I mean, it's who's going to affect most. I think Conor lives a life, so he's always around his fighting weight.
Chris going to have to take off as well, isn't it? So
Chris is.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's like it's a big jump up for Conor if he's always living the weights. It's a jump up for him. So because otherwise, I think if some fighters who like to put on a bit of weight in between and they might spar quite heavy, then yeah, they might be comfortable for them. But if he lives his life around the weight, then it's a big jump up for him.
Yeah.
But as like you say, Chris, he's going to have to take a bit off. It's who it's going to affect the most.
Yeah.
On paper, Chris has been in the bigger fights and the bigger occasions. You know, like people who he's boxed, he has boxed on a bigger stage, and it looked good against Leigh Williams last time out. I thought his boxing looked superb. He's proved that he can fucking tough it out. But Conor's just gone like that.
Yeah.
He's just on a right trajectory. He's gone fucking 200% improvement since like a fair few years ago when he were having life or death in 6-round fights. So
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
His ethic is second to none. It's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it's one of them where I'll have to have a good think about it and do like some studying in my mind and come up with an opinion. Yeah,
we can do it closer to the time because I think a lot of people are in the same boat for that. Right, final one for me. You made your little rockstar debut 2 nights ago, or 3 nights ago. Then Skylights. You came out. I thought, has he been on stage with a microphone singing? What the bloody hell's he doing? I thought, is this him sailing off into the sunset? Talk about the buzz and what you're actually doing because you do play a bit of guitar, don't you? You fancy yourself as a bit of a rock star. Go on. What would it like?
Do you know what? It was an absolute honour to play alongside him. I mean, it was their biggest gig to date at the Leeds O2 Academy. I mean, for them to say they've played at the O2, it's absolutely fantastic. And I know the band members. I know I'm quite close with Turnbull, one a guitarist, and he just mentioned it. You know, he just mentioned it. Do you fancy joining us on stage after the last fight, actually? And I said, don't be daft, man. Don't be daft. He says, no, I'd be honoured to have you on and just come on and join in chorus. And they joined me on Soccer AM a fair few years ago.
Yeah.
And I've given them a bit of promotion and stuff, but I didn't think that I'd be worthy of going on stage and doing stuff like that. And I'd mentioned it to my old fella. I said, I'm going on stage. You're coming to watch. He went, what are you doing? Just standing there waving to the crowd or something? Or we just saying hello. I said, no, I'm playing. He went, fuck off, you're not playing. And yeah, I end up playing. I mean, I've never played alongside a band. I've never played in front of a live audience. So
get a buzz though.
Yeah, massively. Listen, before they walked out, I wished them well before they walked out, and then I went up onto the balcony. I watched them perform half a song. Then I came down. They were all ready and waiting for me to go on because the song was getting wrapped up.
Yeah.
And then before I walked out, there was like a photographer there, and I was fucking shadowboxing, man. I was on my toes. I had a right adrenaline. I felt like I was about to walk to the ring, and then I walk out on stage. You know, the fans there did recognise myself, and they give me we've got a special guest to join us on stage, Josh Warrington. They all went crazy, and then that was it. I was in the zone, proper pumped. But yeah, I ended up bollocksing one of my runs up. I got the timing wrong. But the guy outside of me, he's a lot louder than mine, so I think he just drowned it out. Yeah, blended in a little bit. But yeah, mate, fucking towards the end, our heart were going like chuff. I loved it. The shirt came off and into the crowd, and yeah, fantastic. And like I say, absolute honour for them to let me on stage for them.
Well, Josh, I look forward to catching up with you soon. Know you're in a bit of a sort of recovery now. You're enjoying, you sort of bringing yourself back slowly, but near to the time where we've got a bit more news on you, we'll come and we'll catch up. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, mate.